First off, let me introduce myself. I'm Aashir. I lead up our talent acquisition and talent flex product lines for Eightfold. And I've got a couple esteemed guests on the panel today that we're going to talk about how do you deliver an amazing candidate experience. So I'm going to hand it over to Matt to introduce himself.
Great, nice to see you all. Matt Hill, I head up talent acquisition at Dexcom. And I've seen us grow by about 5 or 6 times in the last 5 or 6 years. So it's been an incredible story of growth. And just a couple of words about Dexcom. We're a continuous glucose monitoring company. We create a device that helps people living with diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, know in real time what their glucose level is. So we've talked a lot about real-time data during this conference. We're another way of basically getting real-time data from your body so that you can make really important decisions around your health. Over to you, Grace.
Hi, my name is Grace, and I lead the sourcing team at Dexcom. It's a growing global team based in the US and the Philippines. Proud to be here.
Well, wonderful. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of candidate experience, I figured let's start with a little bit of a icebreaker question. So I'm going to ask you guys, we're in wine country. What is your favorite wine? Red or white? Any sort of preferences?
For me, absolutely red, a good glass of cab. I love eating steak, so it pairs well with that.
Yeah, I'm also on the red side. I can go between a really good cab or a really nice Pinot, but that's where you'll find me.
So I'm going to finish it out. I, again, in the red camp. I like a good Zinfandel or a cab, and leaning towards France these days. But anyways, beyond that, let's talk about candidate experience, right? I think that, the war for talent, the, great resignation, right? Having a really amazing sort of candidate experience is transformative. And again, I think the work that we've done with you guys over the last few years is really some areas that I think highlight what can be done in a good way. And so Matt or Grace, if you'd like to lean in and sort of give us some thoughts about, as the rest of the room around here and the rest of our customers online, think about what they need to do to deliver a great experience to their candidates so they continue to win the war for talent.
Absolutely, and we've got a great example for this. We've been waiting to tell this story for some time, but put yourselves back about 18 months, October 2020, right? Height of pandemic uncertainty, still no vaccines yet. If the Moderna folks are here, thank you very much. But we got a call, as we often do in TA, and the call was, look, we need to double the size of our US sales force. We need to start this effort in 2 weeks, and we need to finish it by the end of the year so that we can have this new crop of almost 200 sales folks, including regional directors all the way down to territory sales, start in January, right? Start with the new fiscal year. And so we did what TA does. We got to work. And so of course, this included things like making sure that we were really consistent in our approach, making sure that we had all the tools to bear, but of course there was also some supercharged sourcing and marketing that went into it as well.
Exactly, and I can speak to the sourcing and pipelining piece of this huge effort. And I would say in just a matter of a few days, we were able to identify and catalog up to 200 very diverse profiles through the help of Eightfold. And I would say that there were 3 types of talent pools really that we uncovered. One would be previous applicants that we wouldn't have even discovered through our current ATS. The second would be referrals. And if you've recruited for sales folks, they love to refer. We're not mad about that. We love referrals. And the third one, of course, would be our team proactively sourcing profiles from the web through target companies, LinkedIn, you name it. And so what that really allowed us to do is spend some time to think about who are we really connecting with? What is our target audience? And that really made us get creative with creating a very, I would say, engaging campaign that was appropriate for this persona and also for that moment in time. People were scared. It was very uncertain. The last thing that they wanted to do was to switch jobs. And so through that very, I would say, thoughtful outreach strategy, we were able to get a really strong response rate. It was about 25%. Bottom line, that's like 60 people within the first week the search went live that was very engaged and interested. And in the second week, we had 20 applicants that were qualified and ready to interview. And that's just the results of our outbound efforts. And I will turn it over to Matt, who's going to talk about how we broke the internet through.
Yeah, we did break it actually, and it was in a good way because we're here today with a successful story to tell. But I want to also just clicking on one of Grace's comments. So diversity. So we were about to go out and hire 200 people. Usually sales forces in medical device are not extremely diverse. It's not a very diverse group in general. But we also knew that we were going into new markets, and we were also changing our business strategy to go from a focus on type 1 diabetes, which meant endocrinologists and specialists, into more of the general practitioners looking at type 2 diabetes. And so we also knew that we had to be as diverse as these new territories that we were going into. And so it wasn't a nice to have, it wasn't an option. It was our head of US sales saying, you needed to help diversify my sales force. This is a huge priority for me. I'm gonna make sure it's a priority for all of my team as well. And so we did some really cool stuff. We worked with a partner called HireClicks. And we actually went and did some interesting data discovery where we looked and we actually found, because we were searching across the entire US and specific territories, we found a data map of the most diverse cities in the whole US. And we literally overlaid it against our open territory sales roles. And we said, okay, look, it's probably gonna be better to focus and pour fire and marketing from a marketing perspective on our most diverse markets, right? To get the best and most diverse candidates from those markets. And so that's what we did. We basically just continuously looked at all of our pipelines, from a gender, from a race and ethnicity perspective, and we basically pivoted constantly to make sure that those areas where we needed more diverse candidates, we were pouring marketing money on those markets.
Yeah, no, I think this is really exciting because, again, if you think about this, I mean, every single day in talent acquisition, I feel it's like speed, speed, speed. And then again, layering on top of it quality and then diversity. Those are, again, levers that don't always go hand in hand together. And I think what you guys sort of exemplified in that sort of example was just how it can be done in a meaningful way as quick as possible. So I figure this is a good moment to maybe roll our first demo because I think we want to showcase a little bit of what it looks like inside of Eightfold. Awesome. Again, I've never seen talent acquisition on such a large screen, but again, one, we need to get one of these for the office, but again, right, what you're seeing here is a really easy way for our recruiters, and actually Dexcom's recruiters, to come in there, quickly identify the candidates that they want to seek after using AI, write thoughtful emails, actually have templates that make sense, and even schedule them for multi-click and multi-drip campaigns. And so, again, I think about how does Eightfold help customers like Dexcom really move the needle? It's really about improving the efficiency. What would have taken probably 10, 20, 30 minutes, in most other systems, you can do really quickly. And then I think the other bit to this, right, we're seeing a lot of traction on SMS and WhatsApp. The ability to connect with candidates, right now I think it takes about 16 minutes for a response on SMS and WhatsApp versus about 7 hours. And so I think meeting the candidates where they're at is really vital to having a great experience. And then I'll sort of lean in on this one and maybe even start the next set of questions, but I think you guys have a large talent acquisition team, right? Oftentimes recruiters are talking to the same candidates, right? How do you track this, right? I mean, what you're seeing on the screen is just a quick way that any recruiter, any sourcer in your organization could sort of look at these candidates, make effective decisions about what was the last step, whether it was 6 months ago or 10 minutes ago, and effectively understand where the candidate is in any part of their journey. But I'd love for a real world example on that, just out of curiosity, like how has this sort of helped your guys' organization really solve that sort of recruiters hopping over each other?
Sure, that's actually, I'm glad you brought it up because that played well into that Salesforce expansion case study that we're sharing with everybody. It was definitely a lean team of 7 recruiters and sourcers working together to hustle in the last quarter of 2020, which is always challenging. And so the Eightfold was very dynamic, and it just allowed us to not mess around with spreadsheets, although we still had spreadsheets, and just be able to filter through activity. And we eventually had 200 open requisitions. So it really helped us to see who's working on who, and also earmark referrals. Again, very important for us to give them a great candidate experience. And then to add to that, also internal candidates. We were able to successfully hire internal candidates during this expansion. So that's because of all of the notes and tags that we were able to build into the platform.
Anyone want to guess how many applicants we got for these roles over the course of the first 2 or 3 weeks? 10,000. So 10,000 candidates. I mean, that's kind of an AI level problem.
Yeah.
At least for 7 people, right? Trying to work through and really, having that total consciousness when it comes to every piece. If we've got territories that kind of end here and start here, and a candidate from here applied to this one, the recruiter on this one would know that this person applied to that one, right? And so having that knowledge really helped us to not, double contact folks, to really help streamline the candidate experience in terms of saying, look, you're the best fit for this role. Let's focus on this territory and this set of experiences.
Yeah, we showed up very organized and prepared.
Again, I think that's a great segue into sort of the next topic, which I think is match versus search, right? And again, I think you guys really came out and said that this is the game-changing moment that you guys had. And I'd love just to sort of double click on this. Grace, Matt.
Matt has us.
I love matching. I'm never going back to searching again. I mean, it's barbaric. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to your customers, and don't do it to your candidates for sure. But I've got a fun analogy. So last year we went to Africa, and we actually were out there doing safari and seeing all sorts of interesting animals. I found this app called iNaturalist. You take a picture of any crazy African animal, you upload it. It basically does the machine learning. It does that computer vision that we were talking about, and it'll tell you like this is a Kori bustard, the biggest flying bird in Africa. And then once you've done that, other people come in and they'll actually verify that, or they'll say, no, that's actually not a Kori bustard. That's a giraffe. You're crazy. and so for me, that's a really cool analogy, right? Because you have no idea. I mean, you're in a new context. In this case, I'm a candidate looking at 200 jobs. I have no idea what that internal context is. I quickly upload my resume, which is a lot like a purchase history from Amazon, if you think about it, right? I upload that to the system and it says, look, these are the matching roles, right? And so you basically overcome that information asymmetry by using matching. And so it's great for external candidates, and it's awesome for internal candidates. They have a much better understanding of your structure and everything, but still, if there's a couple hundred roles out there, they need to get matched to it. No going back.
No going back, right? No, I love this. I mean, again, if I just think about it, right, I joined the HR space about 5 years ago, and someone actually showed me a website that lets you create Boolean search strings. And I was like, what is this and why are we doing this, right? Like the world is moving forward in AI, and why do we need to go back to that sort of way? Anything to add, Grace, on that front?
Yeah, absolutely. No more going back to complicated long Boolean search strings. Also, no more reverse engineering or trying to remember, okay, so-and-so worked on that job a couple months ago and it's similar to my job and they closed it. What is the rec number again? And can I go in and find new people there? It just takes so long to do that.
Yeah. Most of your ATSs are going to have a very 1990s kind of Boolean interface,
Exactly.
right? And so I never want to go back to that either. I want to have a faceted view into my entire talent pool, right? And to go down from that, not to start anding and oring and parenthesing.
And again, right, I think what's really important here, right, as I take away from this is this idea that finding that right candidate 6 months down the road, 12 months back, that it's applied, they don't feel like they've gone lost in your black hole. And I feel like this is the one thing that every time I talk to a customer, they love the idea that this talent is constantly being resurfaced. Anything to add there before I start?
Yeah, I absolutely love the feature where you can create a reminder or set a reminder to contact candidates that may not be interested but may be more ready down the road. And also in our line of work, 1 out of 5 candidates that we reach out to are actually Dexcom users. And they tell me amazing stories. I just had one example last week where he was like, I'd love to consider a cybersecurity engineer position, but I'm gonna go to surgery. So that allowed me to set a reminder a few weeks from now after he's gotten that surgery to just like check in on him and have that human personal connection.
Yeah, that explainable matching is key, right? I mean, it's a black box, right? And so this is giving procedural justice, and it's making that black box just a little bit less opaque. Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a great segue into let's roll demo 2, because I think this showcases a little bit of some of that excitement, right? So we're on Dexcom's site, and I think you got a story to tell me about Dex in a moment, but again, I think there's the ability not only to engage talent in a meaningful way to talk about your brand through the chatbot, but then also the ability to put your resume into a career site and it tell you in an effective way what skills you bring to the table, which again, from what I hear and constantly see in the data, is we get better quality talent as a result of that. The ability to then also learn about the other folks that are in these roles, the ability to see that talent, it's more than just about applying for the role, but it's also about engaging them in the brand that they're about to potentially get a job with. And I think that you guys got some Nick Jonas videos in there. I didn't even realize that Nick Jonas was really part of the Dexcom team.
Yeah. Hattie LaBelle as well.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. But again, I think the other thing here that we'll just cover off on a little bit is the idea of Smart Apply, the ability to go in without having 8, 10, 12 pages. And I know this came up in a couple conversations this week with folks about how do we streamline this? How do we make it effective, right? In 45 seconds to a minute, apply for a role that you are a strong fit for. And I think that's the clear sort of thing. You hit the submit button and off you go. And I think, again, as you look forward into this for future world, like the idea of having to spend 20 to 25 minutes to apply for a role is antiquated. And I think the world that we're moving towards is this.
Yeah.
So, again, I love to sort of open the topic to interview and scheduling and interview feedback, right? And how as, sort of Eightfold, especially in that use case with 10,000 people applying, like how do you've now narrowed the funnel, you now get to some effective candidates. Like what were the steps you guys took to really sort of effectively move that forward?
Yeah, and we're actually just getting ready to implement the scheduling tool as well because kind of just I'd say a nod to the partnership. At first when we went in there, we said, look, we've got complex interviewing needs, and this isn't exactly going to meet our needs. And so the Eightfold team was actually able to take the brain of Mary Ruiz, one of our awesome coordinators, and kind of build some of her software into the software as well. So again, thanks for that collaboration. But in the beginning, we basically made sure that we had very tight rubrics around what constituted a good resume. We had very tight interview templates in terms of these are the things that we're going to focus on and rank, and also very tight interview teams, not more than 3-4 people tops. And so those are the things that that come to speed, and they come to consistency. And consistency is also key to experience as well, right? Having that consistent experience across different touch points with the company. It's I guess what made Singapore Airlines and McDonald's, right?
Very much so, right? And Grace, any thoughts on sort of that idea around how important? Again, if we're talking about candidate experience, right?
Yeah.
Part of it is just getting your foot in the front door. Part of it is getting matched to the right role. But then the next bit around this is, building that rapport through interviews and engaging with the organization.
Exactly. I think that is actually the most important part of the process is getting everybody through the funnel, right? That momentum, that speed, and also doing it with a smile, which helps a lot. And I think that, again, showing up really organized and prepared and having the ability to understand who you're talking with as a candidate, when to expect a call, when to expect the interview to happen, just gave them a really great experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, if I think about this, when I've talked to a lot of customers that are using our interview scheduling product, I think a couple things come up. One, ease of use and some of those things, and we'll showcase a little bit of that in a moment. But I think the other thing that comes back is, right, it goes back to your consistency, right? Having interview feedback forms that are simple and intuitive to use, right? That hiring managers want to engage in, that's intuitive enough to chase after them. Because again, right, I would imagine, with the amount of people that applied for those roles, the amount of interviews that you needed to do, even collecting feedback is a chore, right? And, again, I think that is one of those areas where I think that we've done a pretty good job of helping customers transpose that into really easy, intuitive ways, right? Thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Asking and validating some of the skills. But I figured this is a good sort of moment to showcase a little bit about interview scheduling. So can we roll demo 3? All right, so what you see up here, I think the other part of this is what's really nice about the AI is highlighting the skills that you should actually be validating when you're talking to the candidate. I think for me as a hiring manager that I interview quite a bit, it's knowing what to be asking for, what I need to validate. The other thing that we've done really, I think, a significant improvement in the industry is really make it easy for recruiters, sourcers, recruiting coordinators to quickly schedule interviews that could either be at the time that they want or let the candidate choose. And I think this is an important aspect to this, right? The idea of putting the power back in the hands of the candidate to determine when they want to interview. Because again, it's a very nerve-wracking thing to go in for an interview for a new job. And so giving them the time to prepare and sort of effectively make those decisions is vital to that success.
I love that. And let's face it, no one loves scheduling interviews. No one.
Also, I wanted to add that things are very fluid now, and so the number one thing that candidates are looking for is flexibility around not just our time as the employers, but their time. And I think in this world, nothing is linear right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm looking at it, right, the ability to sort of set up the interview in a quick, easy manner that they can reschedule, that they can manage, they can cancel.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the world we're moving towards, right? And, you know, one of the things I really love about this is, you know, at least in this partnership, we've started to see sort of how you start at the beginning with a really good user experience and continue it all the way through, that you get to a lot of sort of benefits. Given the fact that the audience, I mean, I look around here, there are a lot of talent acquisition customers in this room today and probably online. What would you say are some of the tidbits and sages of advice, right? You went through the journey 2 years ago, right? We can always talk about Dex the dog, but how would you help folks embrace this journey? What were the things that you would say are the key takeaways to make them successful as they go down this path? And what would you do differently? So let's start with the first one about what would you actually educate folks on trying to do?
Grace, you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the carrot and key takeaway for me would be the ability to work smarter, not harder, especially for my very lean sourcing team. And what the platform allows us to do is to marry that speed, efficiency, and human connection. At the end of the day, we're dealing with people, and it's all about connecting with them. So that's very important for me and my team.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know, you not only have to move fast to secure top talent, you have to pivot even faster, right? You need to quickly figure out what you know and what you don't know, and you need real-time views into your funnel, right? So that you can actually make those changes and not wait for a couple weeks or for those hires to start coming in, right? I mean, you need to really go. And so, I mean, you know, taken together, I think this just lets you selectively put your investments where they need to be to make the maximum impact.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are some great takeaways, right? And you just touched a little bit momentarily on the analytics, and actually we didn't do any demos that sort of covered off on this, but I think this is the powerful tool. You've got many levers that any recruiting team, any sourcing team has to pull to effectively make the right decisions. Maybe let's spend a moment on analytics and how important it is to today's business of talent acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you can have too much analytics, but really you can't, right? I mean, you want to answer any question that you have anytime that you need to answer it. And so for us, you know, and you don't usually get those analytics from your ATS. And so to have a platform that sits on top and actually makes sense of years of history has been a game changer, right? I mean, diversity obviously is a huge use case. I remember when those analytics first came out, and Eightfold basically said, look, we're giving this to everyone. This is important. This is actually going to help our customers, and we think it's the right thing to do, right? And so having those diversity analytics, but also being able to see the diversity of our pipelines across all those different individual territories. I mean, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah. And for me, I love being able to get into the different dashboards. You don't need to be an analyst. You don't need to know complicated SQL queries. And it just shows me, you know, what are the skills that we need to profile, right? As a sourcing team, that's very important for us. Again, we're pretty small and we work with different business units and groups. And so that really allows me to understand what we need with regards to, let's say, creating a more engaging job posting, and you can access the analytics around drop-off rates with applies and conversions. So that's been very handy for me.
Yeah, and I think one thing that was a continuing takeaway is that this project and the outcomes were actually mentioned in every single analyst call that we've done as a public company in the last year. Literally every analyst, during every call, an analyst will ask, how is that expansion going? How are they doing, and what's the impact there? And so, for us to have our work talked about at an analyst call is a pretty cool thing.
No, again, and I go back to it, right? So like even the email outreach campaigns that we showcased a little bit earlier, right? I think this is the real quintessential sort of power. It tells you which ones were successful with which audience, right? They help you then make the determination about, right, next time you have someone calling you up at midnight saying, hey, I need to hire, 200 more salespeople, that are diverse, that are like purple unicorns, how do I start that journey, right? And I think that that's transformative to it. Now, go ahead.
I was just going to, you start at calm and ready because you've got the tools and the resources.
Yeah.
As you look forward to this, right, as you encourage some of the customers that are actually coming aboard onto the platform, what would you say are some of the things that you would do differently or would you lean into first in a sequence of events?
Yeah, we, as you've all done or are about to do, you're going to implement in a pandemic, right, without a lot of face-to-face interaction. And so getting that right, making sure you have the right team in place and making sure that you have your own technical resources that are super aligned and ready and excited too, because it's going to be some work for them, right? The machine needs to get fed, right? And so, if you have to have those partners on the technical side to make that work. And once it works, it's a beautiful thing. But you really have to know your data, right? You have to know your data inside and out before you start to really extract these kinds of insights from it.
Grace, any thoughts if you were starting over again?
Yeah, exactly. For me, maybe having that attraction strategy in mind, because I think it's important during this period in time that we look at our potential internal applicants as well as referrals. So being able to uncover that from the start, whether it's through filters or tagging, I think that's something that would be a great hack for you guys.
That's wonderful. Now, let me just finish with one last question, right? So we were talking about candidate experience, right? As you look out here, right, how would you drive people to rethink their candidate experience? Because again, I think you guys have done a great job, right? You've really streamlined a lot of the questions you ask. You've made it really quick and effective, but not every company can move in that direction. And I think if you think about it, what are some of those things that you would sort of, as the one takeaway to walk out of here to improve that candidate experience?
It's always the golden rule, right? Or the platinum rule, right? The golden rule is do to others as you would have done to you. I think the platinum rule is do unto others as they would want to have done unto them, right? And so I think the personalization is key, and bringing that all the way through.
Yeah, and also showing some personality, showing that culture that you guys have, writing in a friendly tone like you're talking to a friend over coffee. So that's a good one.
And it doesn't hurt to have Nick Jonas and you said Patti LaBelle?
And my little French bulldog is our bot. So.
Oh yeah. So hold on. Let's just finish that. Yeah. So how did that happen? Just
We don't have a lot of good kind of graphic skills inside talent acquisition at Dexcom, but we do have a lot of dogs, as it turns out. So we kind of made it a rotating thing where recruiters' dogs could basically serve as our chatbot, the face of Dexcom chatbot. But yeah, it's time for Grace's dog to get up there.
I know.
Well, in that vein, I've got dog socks on, to carry it through. But again, I wanted to thank both of you, Matt and Grace. Again, really enjoyed the conversation today. I think that there are a couple good takeaways from this as you think about your candidate experience, how you improve it, whether you're an existing customer, whether you're a prospect, whether you're moving forward on it. There is always ways to streamline the approach, make it more personalized. And I think that's key to winning over the candidate.
Yeah. Well, thanks to the Dexcom team back home and make it possible, and also thanks to Eightfold for holding this conference and for doing it right. really appreciate the chance to hang out with all you all in person.